Welcome to SuperLife with me, Darin, a podcast where we explore, discover, and share solutions that promote a healthier life and a better world. Together, we'll ignite possibilities, inspire change, and build sovereignty, creating a roadmap towards a super life for you and for all. Get ready to start living your super life. Hey everybody, welcome to the show. This is Darin, and this is the SuperLife podcast. SuperLife with Darin. Thanks for tuning in. I'm so stoked that we changed the name, and it is more and more aligned with why I'm here and what I'm about and what I want to accomplish and what I want to share with you. I want you to live your best life, and I hold that space for you. I hold that space for myself, and sometimes the information I share with you is hard. It's hard to understand. It's hard to understand from the fact that why is it even here and why is it harming us? Why is it silent? Why is it invisible? Which is why I wrote my book, Fatal Conveniences. If you haven't checked it out, please check it out. You don't have to stomach the whole thing straight away. You can take it in bite sizes. You can read a chapter, you can find solutions in the back, you can start with beauty products, you can start with clothing, you can start with EMF remediation, you can start with personal care, and just go down the list and revamp your life, because at the end of the day, these things are taking energy away from you. It's taking energy away from you so that you can't live the kind of life that you want. I believe that, which is why my first book was called SuperLife, which is why the second book's called Fatal Conveniences, because it's this idea that our conveniences are so seductive in our modern day world that we've blown off the reality of, well, we've not blown off the reality. Without us knowing, these products are sold to us, and we're not given all of the information. Which is why I wrote the book. So really, I really mean that I want you to live your life in the best way possible. And in so doing, sometimes in our life, we have to understand that there are people around us that are not great for us. There are things that we're doing that are not great for us. So I'm not about perfection, just progress, man. So in this episode of SuperLife, I'm going to dive into PFAS. That's right. PFAS or PFOAs. These are forever chemicals. I interviewed an amazing woman, Kris Hansen. She interviewed her from her location in Minnesota, and I was here in Malibu. And she, if you haven't checked out the episode, check out the episode. She didn't realize she was whistleblowing the reality that 99% of the human mammal had PFAS already in their blood. This was in the 90s. And 3M, which was distributing this stuff and creating this stuff, told her, the chief science officers, told her that it was safe. But they didn't do safety studies. So they lied. But she bought it. She didn't know. She did her thing. She developed protocols to test blood. She couldn't find any in the known planet, known human blood samples that didn't have PFAS in already in the 90s. And this is a forever chemical. So, if you want to dive deep into it, please check out my book. I get into it. It is a bit alarming, but there's hope. There's a lot of hope, okay? If there wasn't hope, I wouldn't be talking about it, because I always find ways. I always do. And so do others. So we're making changes. This life is strange that way. There's some challenges. And with those challenges, we get to overcome them, make things better. That's why we're here. That's why you're listening to this podcast. You're now a super lifer. That's right. You do, on some level, want to live your best life. I know that. I know that without a shadow of a doubt. Your spirit inside of you, your being wants to live a happy, healthy, love-filled life. That's why we're here. So, that's why we're going to talk about a big one, a forever chemical. There was north of 15,000 different derivatives of PFAS on the planet. It is proliferated everywhere. It bioaccumulates in the body. I'm not going to get into all of the challenges around it, because I'm going to say you need to read my SuperLife. But it's connected to it's a carcinogenic. It is an endocrine disruptor. It is connected to diabetes, high cholesterol, metabolic conditions, energy. So it undermines our life. It bioaccumulates. It is a nasty chemical from fluorine gas slammed together with a bunch of carbon and carbon bonds. So it is very difficult to get rid of from the environment perspective, and it's also challenging to get out of our body, but there's hope. So I'm digging into that for you. So let's first start to understand that where are we being exposed to this stuff? Okay? We're being exposed to this in our water. Most now, why is it in our water? Because it's airborne, it's hydrophilic. It has one end of its mechanism or molecule that likes water, and then the other end is hydrophobic. So it's a strange situation. So it is in our water, it is in our air, it is in our soil, and largely it shows up in a lot of different ways. Manufacturing, from waste management and everything. It's had a maturation since the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s, 2010, 2020. It's still here. Okay? And that molecule is continuing to bond and collect in the environment and in our bodies. So, sorry, we're born into this. So, I'm here to say, what do we do about it? So, it's in our drinking water, and the conservative estimates here in the United States is over 50% of our water, and I would say if you're not filtering it from a municipality, it's in the water. It's just there. Because if you're not doing very high level sophistication of eliminating that, chances are it's probably there. But the stats say 50% of our population is being continuing the exposure of PFAS in the drinking water. And that drinking water is also the showers, what you wash with, what you wash your children with, what you wash your vegetables with. If you're not filtering your water, I'll tell you how to filter. You're being exposed to it. And particularly if you're in cities, industrial sites, that has historically higher and higher contamination. Okay, so I'm going to get into solutions, so I'm going to hold that for a second. Food packaging is another way of exposure. Food packaging. What do you say, Darin? Well, any time that your food comes up against a surface, plastic is one thing. Plastic still could have not only phthalates and other plasticizers and the petroleum that makes the plastic, but plastic itself could have a layer of PFAS on it too. Okay, so PFAS is a resistant barrier, resistant to stains, resistant to heat, and it's resistant to it's slippery. So food doesn't stick to it. So now think of every pizza container, every fast food, every takeaway container, virtually all containers, potentially every coffee cup, every tea cup is coming in contact with PFAS and or plastics, plasticizers, and therefore in your body. This is cookware. So all the non-stick nonsense, which is still, by the way, showing up. I have worked my ass off. I thought certain companies were better. They were saying it's PFAS free. Well, they have nanoparticles and everything else, and found that there's either heavy metals or other nano PFAS in there. So I have worked hard to make sure that the pans that I'm promoting and really just exposing to you so that they're free of these things. Caraway, I end up pulling because it didn't have strong enough data, so I pulled that from the website. I now am promoting Extrema pans. So anyway, but let's go back to microwave popcorn. Let's go back to food. Let's go back to beverage, food containers, food packaging, PFAS, and then of course cans have BPA, BPH, all these other things, but I won't get into all of that stuff. Cookware, again, many types of cookware. The grandfather of it all is Teflon. And so now they just create other forms of PFAS or PFOAs and try to get around this whole thing and still put it on. Other ways of exposure, textiles and carpets. That's right. Textiles, meaning your clothes. If you have clothes that are saying it's stain resistant, it's wrinkle resistant, don't buy it. It's full of PFAS. Waterproof, full of PFAS. Scary, but it's true. Okay? So all of the miracle words you hear around clothing that make no sense at all. You're wearing a chemistry set made by companies that literally don't give a shit about your health. But they're just trying to, again, market to you a fatal convenience. So all of the textile and the carpets too. Look at your carpets very carefully. If you have carpets, they're just a bioaccumulator of all kind of dust mites. It's hard to keep those things clean. And plus, they're all full of dyes, formaldehydes, glues, plastic. It's plastic. It's petroleum. It's nylon. It's elastic. All of these in these dyes and azo dyes. Carpets are horrible. And then you move to sofas and beds and bedding. All of this stuff. Beds, baby products, baby bedding, baby diapers, all of that stuff that's easy to, baby bibs, all of these things that are easy to wipe off. Please, as parents, listen to what I'm saying. Do not expose your children to these things because it will not leave their body and it will harm them over time. All of what I'm saying are references based on research. environmental science and technology, environmental science, pollution and research, environmental science and technology, environmental science and technology. All of these things that I'm referencing are proof that they are in these products. So all of these are in the show notes. Personal care. Where else do PFAS show up? Cosmetics. If they say they don't wipe off, that's PFAS. It's okay if your lip gloss, lipstick, mascara smears. It's okay. It's supposed to. If it doesn't, and it doesn't wipe off, and it doesn't come off with water, it's PFAS, and it's dangerous. It's on your skin. It's always, and you're reapplying. Don't use it, please. Dental floss. If it's slippery and it slides in between, run from it. You're putting it in your mouth and you're getting exposed to PFAS. There's other organic, cotton, charcoal covered dental floss. You just wipe it and it's just fine to go in between the teeth. Stay away from that stuff. Cosmetics, dental floss, other personal care items, you want to be careful. Let's see, other ways of exposure, firefighters. If you have firefighters, be very careful. The fire retardants are full of PFAS. Big time. And that's a very huge environmental exposure. Chemical plant workers, other huge exposures. And those are the main things. Now, one thing that I talked with Kris Hansen about, and also I found in the research, again, all this is in the show notes, research from 2001, the Environmental Science and Technology found PFAS in breast milk samples. Turns out that the mother, one way it discharges PFAS, unfortunately, is in the milk. And then that's given to the child in higher dosage. So moms, you must eliminate and reduce your exposure. Why I bring up all these exposures to PFAS is that you start to understand where you're being exposed to this stuff so you can stop it. Because moms who are breastfeeding, you will discharge more of that PFAS through the breast milk from the research. And that is not a good thing. Okay, so those are some of the ways of exposure. Again, I get a lot further detail in my book, Fatal Conveniences. Now I'm going to dive into some of the preliminary data of how we all can start eliminating PFAS in your body, helping it get out. So the number one thing is limit exposure. Read my book, listen to this podcast, share it with as many people as possible. This is a stain on humanity. This is very dangerous over time. Okay? I don't mean to alarm you. You don't need another thing to worry about. All I want you to do is learn about where you're being exposed and create new habits in your life and eliminate these different exposures. That's the first thing you can do. Second thing you can do is eat clean, right? So eat whole food. And here's the interesting thing. The miracles of fiber, they support your microbiome. They support serotonin, dopamine levels. They support your immune system. Fiber, insoluble and soluble fiber that comes from fruits and vegetables, whole nuts and grains and seeds. All of this stuff from fiber, not from meat. You get no fiber from meat. Fiber helps. There's a 2010 study that's starting to show that it helps with the elimination of persistent organic pollutants. Okay? So the fiber in the gut and the microflora in the gut, eating fiber helps to bind these organic pollutants in the body, and then through that binding of the fiber eliminates that in the body. Okay? It was a 2010 study, so there needs to be a lot more data on this. I'm simply saying the preliminary data to potentially support getting this PFAS out of your body. The one thing that you have a lot more control over is your exposure to this stuff. So eliminating your exposure to PFAS. Understand PFAS and eliminate your exposure. Number one, high, rich fiber foods. That's whole food. Just eat a bunch of plants, eat a bunch of fruit, and you're good. Eat the majority of your calories from whole, fresh food, and now you will increase your detoxification pathways of persistent organic pollutants. Next thing you can do, and you will naturally get this, antioxidant-rich foods. Well, guess what all the colors represent in foods? Antioxidants. Blueberries, antioxidants. Red peppers, antioxidants. Carrots, antioxidants. Watermelon, lycopene, antioxidants. On and on and on. Increase, and you get anti-aging, anti-inflammatory, free radical scavenging foods, and also pollutant supporting, because these pollutants, these PFAS, cause damage throughout the body and create free radicals. So you need high antioxidant-rich foods more than ever. Okay, some of the stuff that I'm further digging on, but there's a lot of data there's good preliminary data to support supplements. And the supplements around potentially are activated charcoal. Okay? Activated charcoal is this, you can get it from coconut hulls and things like that. And it's almost like a natural biochar of carbon. And 2000 study showed water science and technology demonstrated that activated carbon's effectiveness on removing PFOAs from water, suggesting that it's a potential gut binding possibility. So it's working in the environment. So activated charcoal in the environment seems to be working and positive at having an affinity of pulling in and binding to this PFAS. So it makes sense. There's virtually no harm to ingesting this activated charcoal, and it has a potential and we need to do a lot more studies, it has a potential of binding to PFAS in the body. Another potential is Chlorella. Chlorella is fantastic binding mechanism for heavy metals. So it helps to bind, and it also helps other organic pollutants. So again, we need a lot more studies, but it is safe, it is effective if it's a clean source. Currently, I'm not giving out sources for this because I haven't done enough research on that, but I'm just giving you the information that good Chlorella, microalgae, green pigment, again, if you eat a bunch of greens, it's also healthy. I like raw living spirulina, but specific Chlorella you can add to your water. You can take as supplements, you can take as pills. That's a potential, and it also helps in other detoxification pathways. Here's another thing that you can do, hydration. So I talked about you have to eliminate your exposure, so you have to filter your water, and also just having high amounts of water will help you detoxify everything. Your lymphatic is over 90% water, and you can be dehydrated, and your urinary tract, your liver, and your sweat mechanisms, all of that can be compromised if you're not even hydrated anyway. Keep in mind, most of you are already today, right now, dehydrated. I've talked about this a lot. So hydrate yourself, and reverse osmosis also shows that eliminates PFAS, okay? Many forms. There's many 15,000 different forms of PFAS, but we do know that longer chains of PFAS, we know without a doubt that it's getting rid of it, and it is the best line. I have multiple filters on my place in my house, and the last thing I do is I reverse osmosis my water, and then you know what I do from there. I add electrolytes back to it. So that eliminate the exposure and then increase your hydration by drinking more water. Great thing to do. Exercise and sweating. Another great detoxification. There is no harm in it. We need to do more research, but a 2013 study, Scientific World Journal, found that sweat may be a route for the elimination of some of the PFAS molecules. Okay, so it is good to do. And it didn't say whether it was traditional saunas or infrared. Just go sweat. Another thing that popped up in a study which I did not expect was 2019 JAMA Network's research study suggested that regular blood or plasma donation might reduce PFAS. So that would be taking it, obviously you're dumping a liter or so of blood that unfortunately we all have it. It's not in question. You have PFAS in your blood, in your body right now. It is not a question. You have it. The question is, what are you going to do to eliminate the exposure and then start to do sensible things to help our body potentially get rid of this stuff? Okay? That's what we need to do. And that's what I'm dedicated to do. I don't want carcinogenic, bioaccumulating PFAS in my body. I don't want that adding to metabolic conditions and who knows what from this very dangerous, completely man-made molecule. Okay? So that's the main things I want to cover today. There's some organizations and researchers that are fantastic. I assume Silent Spring came up from the work of Silent Spring Institute that talked about the exposure of PFAS. So there's the organization called Silent Spring Institute. Key research there doing some great work is Laura Shadler, PhD. She's focusing on studying PFAS in drinking water and consumer products. Green Science Policy Institute is also doing some great research. Environmental Working Group is doing some more research. David Andrews, PhD. Olga Nadenko, PhD, are focusing on PFAS contamination mapping and policy advocacy. Superfund Research Program is doing environmental health impacts and remediation of PFAS. This is all good stuff. Chan School of Public Health is doing PFAS exposure, especially focused around children. University of Rhode Island is doing research around environment and potential remediation strategies. Michigan State University is doing PFAS impact on fish and wildlife and implications on human health. Mount Sinai School of Medicine is doing research on the economic and health impacts of environmental chemicals, including PFAS. University of California, Berkeley is doing in environmental health and toxicology reporting, including PFAS and other contaminants. And then finally, another one, and there's more, but the Agency of Toxic Substances and Disease Registry. It's a government organization studying health effects and exposure to PFAS. I say all that to know that, to tell you, It's certainly not just me. It's certainly not just a few people. It's not fringe. People know it's a really big problem. The problem is that they've been playing around with this toxic crap since the 60s. And it's still in our environment. There is no safety levels that are safe. There's no levels of this that are safe. Zero. This should not be in our environment, and it should not be in our body. Dose is the poison. Any dose of this is poisonous to our body. Period. It just doesn't kill us acutely. Okay? Over time, it really derails our body. I'm bringing this up because it is a really big issue. Listen to my podcast with Kris Hansen. Listen. Okay? I really want you to understand that you can do a lot of things to eliminate the exposure. Okay? And you can do a lot of things to change what you're being exposed to. Listen, when you eliminate your exposure to PFAS, you're eliminating a lot of other stuff, because anytime PFAS is connected to something, that something is not healthy anyway. Clothing. The clothing itself has 8,000 other chemicals, literally, and not even making that up, as 8,000 other chemicals that it was created, that it needed to create a freaking t-shirt. From the inception of one of the most highest sprayed toxic crops on the planet, conventional cotton, to all the dyes, all of the bleaching agents, all of the stuff that then weaves petroleum in your shirt so it's elastic and it stretches. Same with your jeans. And then they say it's stain resistant and wrinkle resistant, and they slather it with PFAS. Stop buying it. Support companies like Industry of All Nations. The only clothes that I can freaking wear. Plus, Prophetic and my good buddy Jeff Garner. He's got we get into this topic in his new documentary that he spent 20 years in the clean clothing space and did a documentary. I helped him in it. I was in it. He did an amazing job. It's called Let Them Be Naked. It's going around to some festivals. We'll be talking about it more. We're getting distribution. We need to talk about this so that you can have actionable things you can do. Which is why I told you. We have actionable things that you can do to eliminate your exposure. Okay? There's a lot of show notes in this one. There's some good research, some good researchers. Thank you to all of them. I want to give a shout out to Kris Hansen again. And I want you all to live a super life. I want you to live your best life. And I don't want you to be a victim for a choice that you didn't make. You didn't choose to put toxic chemicals. You didn't choose to buy it. You didn't know. So now you know. Please share this episode. Don't blow it off. Because everyone who's a parent, who have children and pets and loved ones, all of us are getting exposed to this stuff. So let's slow the roll on our exposure, and there's a lot of things we can do about it. Okay? So I love you all. Have an amazing day and a super life. Thank you.